Hello, welcome to Club IDIC. Tonight we will be watching and studying Melora from Star Trek Deep Space Nine and discussing disability does not mean inability. Please enjoy this meeting. Evening.
You were saying?
You look fabulous.
Oh.
You always look fabulous, though. Oh, don't cry. Please don't cry, for the love of the Lord.
How am I crying?
You look like you're ready to cry.
Yeah, if anything, anyway, you're the one with the waterworks.
Oh, cheeky. Anyway, how are you?
Me, I'm good. I'm just sitting here with the cold.
Oh no, don't go
I
out.
don't even want to fathom the temperature in your area.
It's cold. It's cold, but I've got food. I'm okay. I'm very safe. I've renewed my lease for another year. I'm safe and off the streets. I'm healthy as I'm going to get.
Yes.
I'm as healthy as I'm going to get, and I'm in a place where I can do lots of walking, and I'll be doing some volunteering with a mask on in the next few weeks. So I'm happy.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, right. I remember now. You had a question about the upcoming convention in Chicago?
Yes. I worry about people wanting to get in over their heads too soon and too fast. So I hope they're well.
Well, like I spoke to you earlier, I know people who are going down to Washington for a convention right now. They're already posting photos. But like I told you, it depends on your tolerance for risk.
Well, I just, it worries me. COVID is still very much a reality. I mean, I'll think about it.
Right. I think you have until April, is it?
Yeah, I'll think about it. I'm just glad I've got this little virtual group that will keep me busy, just in case that doesn't work out. Yeah. Erring on the side of caution is something Cisco did as well. And it's making me think of this episode. Actually, this is a perfect segue. Because Melora got defensive. I remember watching this. She said, "You're not going to give me a runabout because I'm in a wheelchair." And he's like, "No, I wouldn't give any ensign a runabout at this time of day to do this thing without getting to know them." He's like, "It's not about your disability."
Okay.
Because I remember, I don't know if you've ever seen it, have you?
Not in a while.
She was very defensive and resisted all sorts of help because she thought, oh, people think I'm weak, so I need to put this wall up and refuse to accept help, or else people are going to think I'm weak and incapable. And it was very unfortunate.
Well, I've only seen the episode once.
Yes.
So I would ask that you bear with me.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, people with disabilities are very much a culture unto themselves.
Mm.
They ask for understanding, they ask for accommodation, and yet they're scared of asking for too much. For fear of being seen as weak or troublesome, or just being told they're not welcome.
Oh, I see that around from time to time in the convention scene.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, just great.
You look so cute without your glasses. I've never seen you without them.
Really?
Yes, you look so cute. I've never seen you without your glasses.
Hey, you think I'm cute?
You've just got this little baby face. I love it.
I trust you're not trying to adopt me by any chance.
No. It's adorable.
I knew it.
Yeah, anyway, I won't put too much attention on it because I don't want to make you uncomfortable.
No, aside from the fact this is going up on YouTube later.
Of course it is. It was a
And
good.
this is the most I've seen you smile and laugh.
Oh, really? Thank you.
Yeah, you have a lovely laugh.
Oh, thank you.
And now you're blushing.
Oh, that is such a problem I've had since I was young. I always go red as a cherry tomato. Like an actual cherry tomato, like red, 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 red. Whew. There we go. If I can get into a good laugh, I can laugh for like at least 20 minutes on end, like choking and suffocating on laughter. But anyway, Melora,
Yes.
yes, I won't spoil too much, but she was very defensive. And I also noticed something else, which you should watch for, that the Deep Space Nine station was not really built to accommodate people that really couldn't move on 2 feet. It really wasn't.
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate because, and I remember doing this sort of activity when I did a year of study in gerontology, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of failed out due to circumstances beyond my control that I'm not getting into.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can message me later if you want.
Yeah. But we had to do these studies about what places are actually wheelchair accessible and disability accessible. And it's a shocking thing that not really many places are wheelchair and disability accessible. And it's very sad. People and society in general claims to be very disability accessible, but there are so many places with stairs and a lack of ramps and places without hearing accessibility and mobility accessibility and food accessibility. Yeah.
Man, that reminds me, I remember the other day I was riding in my local city subway system, trying to figure out which subway stations are wheelchair accessible.
Yeah. I've never ridden on, well, I have ridden on a bit of a subway train before in Salt Lake. So yeah. They have little areas where the wheelchairs can sit on the trams. And they're sort of like, and they have elevators as well as stairs at the station. So, but it's a long distance and it's a pain in the butt to use them. I didn't really pay attention to mobility until after I got diagnosed with my condition, and walking even became a difficulty for me. And I had to go under undergo physical therapy, and I've had to start using mobility scooters when it's just physically become too much.
Yes, I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're in a wheelchair half the time?
I don't use a wheelchair. No, I walk. And no, sometimes when I'm in the grocery store and I'm just physically exhausted or in pain, I have to use the mobility scooters that the old people use at the grocery store.
Wheelchair, mobility scooter,
Like it's a little
something with
electronic
wheels.
scooter that you drive yourself.
I know what it is. I've seen it, Heather. I've seen it.
I think I've gotten stares for it, and people haven't always been considerate about moving. And somebody actually said to me the other day, I hate it when people don't move for people in the scooters. And it's like, it's not like I want to use this thing that my body sometimes can't. And, you know, I've been doing physical therapy, but there are still days when I need it. And so, and like when my mom had her foot surgery, she needed a wheelchair. And when my dad had cancer, he needed a wheelchair, and I pushed it a lot of the time, and my mom pushed it too. So it is not easy. And when I used to volunteer at an old folks home, I pushed a lot of people in wheelchairs. It is not easy to live in a wheelchair. And yeah, I learned how to help people in and out of wheelchairs, especially my dad. And I had to learn to help him up and down the stairs and be his legs, because he could not walk with the cancer. That was what went first, were his legs and feet. And it was the saddest thing. And it's like, you don't really understand plights of people with disabilities until you experience it, or you see someone close to you experience it. And then you have empathy and you want to do more, but you don't know what to do.
Yeah, compared to people who don't even have a clue about this, whatever disability it is, be it physical or mental, and just like using that as an opportunity to go pick on people.
Yeah, wow. I mean, ableism, it can be either for physical or intellectual or anything, but it's a terrible thing. And, you know, I just wish it would stop, because we're all people. We're just wired differently and built differently. And some of us can do things and we can't do other things, but we should all be helping each other, you know?
Yeah, instead of picking on each other like we're still in high school. Oh,
Yeah. The best remedy for that maybe is to forgive and just move past it, because some people are always going to be the same way.
yeah.
Like, but
Yeah, I know a guy that's low functioning autistic, really gets under a lot of people's skin with his maladaptive behavior.
Oh yeah.
Like me, I have some mental health training. I understand that's part of his problem that he can't do anything about. But for the average person on the street, he's a jackass.
I think we're all a little bit of that at times. But, you know, if we get hurt through different things like ableism and indifference and stuff, and I mean, we can forgive and move on and learn from it, and we don't have to become the monsters that we survive. And that's something we need to remember, right? Yeah, and I mean, I know it's not easy to do that. It's really not. But we need to, because then we become worse than them. We give them power.
Yeah.
And I'm not diminishing anyone's experiences, but I'm just saying, use our experiences for good. Oh, what's the matter?
No, I'm just saying, I'm listening to you. I understand what you're saying. I'm not putting you down or belittling you in any way, shape, or form, Heather.
Oh, I know that. I know you would never belittle me, because you'd get it back.
And you're turning cherry again.
What? Oh, I'm turning a cherry again.
Yeah, you match with my outfit.
Yeah, I would love a copy of your outfit. Maybe I should try and blush and make it an outfit. I don't know.
Okay, I don't know how to answer that one. So,
Well, I can't sew worth the crap anyway, so I'll just have to wait for Halloween.
sorry, kindly elaborate.
Well, I was saying I should maybe make an outfit since they're so expensive to buy, but I can't sew. So
Okay.
because eventually I'd like, to change colors.
Besides Kelvin versus Kirk,
Yeah.
and if I may toot my own, that didn't come out right. To toot my own horn, I have a TNG ops, TNG command, which is what I'm wearing tonight, DS9 ops, 2 DS9 commands. I have my Voyager command and my Picard command. Lucky 7.
Yeah, that is a lucky 7.
And like I said to somebody before, some of my wardrobe is me doing COVID shopping.
So, in all your command red glory, do you have any thoughts about the subject I picked for tonight? Disability does not mean inability. And the questions I posted, or do you want to save that?
Well, I'm talking to you and I'm trying to look at the Zoom thingy. Let me see your questions for discussion. Let me see. Melora is defensive. Julian likes to mother everyone. Oh, when he's not trying to get it on with Esme.
That is the most accurate and amusing description of Julian Bashir I have ever heard.
Wants to let him help her, but he'll lose her identity.
We can say
okay, so I guess those are the questions you relate to the most.
Like,
well, that's part of the topic. Oh, sorry, you first.
You can talk about whatever you want, and then we can say whatever you want for after the episode, so you can get a refresher or.
Yeah. Time is it 2018, my time?
Would you like to get started then?
Yeah. Well, I'm just wondering, I don't see Jake and our usual crew showing up.
Well, that's all right. We can still have a good conversation with just the two of us.
Well, it's working so far.
You're so entertaining, that's why. Oh, don't be modest. I'll get mad.
All righty.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna watch and then you can gather your thoughts.
Okay, I'll let you know when I'm done.
All right. See you.
All right, any latecomers, just tune in to Melora.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll be on the watch.
Switching now.
Take care. Well, I suppose we're done watching the episode, and I'd like to welcome Theresa, who arrived while we were watching the episode.
Good evening, Theresa. How you been?
Just to catch you up, Theresa, beforehand, we talked about how disability is very much a culture unto itself.
Am I still where people can hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, I mean, people certainly treat you differently too.
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah, it's like looking at Melora, how she was sounding pretty cranky at first. Because you're trying to, you don't like being put down as being disabled and people think less of you. But at the same time, you're so busy trying to prove and assert your dominance that it kind of backfires a little bit.
And people think you're being rude and everything when you're just trying to say, hey, I can do this and I'm not weak.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a fine line too. I mean, I don't feel like I've ever really been in, like Melora was, especially in the beginning. But people do treat you differently, and sometimes, just as a human being, you know, it's hard to take that, because they do. I mean, I've honestly been around disabled people my whole life of one sort or another. It's kind of different when it's your own.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I feel like because I've been a caregiver too. So I feel like I'm a little more understanding of both sides. I feel like I am. My son tells me that I am not always. But I do try. I mean, but it is difficult. It's difficult when you have to be in your 40s like I am and depend on your 17-year-old son to do things for you. I mean, I don't want to depend on him for anything. He's 17. He should be enjoying his teenage years. But then again, I need someone, and he's all I got.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've got some understanding there.
Mm-hmm. Can be frustrating when your body really doesn't work for you or turns against you and you need the help of others. You feel like you lose a sense of yourself. But then again, if you suddenly had a disability and had it cured or lost it, then how would you feel about that?
Yes, would you still be you? I think personally, the option should be yours. If you want to go through an experimental treatment or to remain as you are.
Like, in the episode, Melora was all for trying the experimental treatment and giving into Julian's eagerness. But as she progressed in the sense of being regular, she suddenly felt like she had lost part of herself. And she just, Julian was so eager and she felt like she didn't want to let him down. And then suddenly she said, I didn't feel like myself. This isn't me. I need to stop this and go back to being myself. This person who has no disability isn't me. And this reminds me of an earlier discussion we had in the club. I don't remember if you were there or not, Anthony, but I think we talked about if there was a cure for your divergency or your disability, would you take it?
I don't believe we spoke about that recently.
I think it was a really long time ago.
Well, I mean, for me personally, one of my issues, many issues, is kidney failure.
Oh, no.
And they found a growth on one of my kidneys. So I'm going to see the doctor to see if they can just remove it. Because they don't know, of course, until they do testing if there's, any other issues. But there have been people in my support groups for the kidney stuff who have they've been offered a kidney that was maybe somebody that was sick or used drugs in the past or something. And one person asked just a couple of days ago, there is a cancer that they can't remove on a donor kidney, and she only had 6 hours to make her decision. And I don't know what she decided, whether or not she wanted to accept that kidney, because the more times you turn down a kidney, of course, that doesn't look good for you in the future, getting a kidney. And it really got me thinking whether I would be willing to do that. And you know, it's not an easy decision.
Because you're basically going from a sick kidney to a sick kidney. So where's the benefit?
Exactly. I mean, well, the doctors were telling her she's probably got, you know, a decade before she has a real problem. I'm like, yeah, you know, that's tough. That's really tough. Tough
And,
decisions.
and if you got a kidney that had cancer on it, wouldn't you get the cancer? I'm not sure how that works.
I'm not really sure because, you know, I don't really know her. She's just in one of the support groups I'm in, and she didn't give all the details. That's just, I basically told you everything I know. But yeah, I really need to see if I can go back. Sure, there's like a way to see things that were said in the past and see, because I've been concerned about her because that was a few days ago. So, and she only had 6 hours to decide. So yeah, but you know, but any kind of disability. My oldest son, the one that lives with me, has Asperger's.
Yeah.
Which now they kind of lump together with autism.
Yes.
It's not
Yes, I remember
really
they
the same.
renamed it.
It's not really the same. I mean, he's at work right now. He works full time. He's gonna start classes in the fall to get his plumbing license. And
Okay.
he's an excellent cook. You know, he's really into Star Trek. You know, he's not what you think of or what the average person thinks of when the word, you know, Asperger's or autism
HFA.
comes up. So, I mean, mental health is there too. I mean, I've got 2 cousins that are autistic, and they're one's very high functioning and the other moderate. But you know, people just don't understand.
No,
They
they
just
don't.
they lump everybody together. I'm in my mid 40s, and well, I can tell you guys, I trust you. I'm 43. And when I go grocery shopping, I have to use the little electric cart because I cannot get through the whole store. And people, man, people are rude
They stare.
and
I
say
know, I
things.
understand.
I mean, I'm impressed with the audacity that some people have to talk to strangers. It's crazy. But, you know, just because somebody has handicap tag, for example, and they look fine, doesn't, I mean, clearly they aren't fine, and I'm not in any position to diagnose them, and it's not my right to know their medical history. That's none of my business. I wish more people had that attitude, though.
That's why they're called invisible disabilities. And guess what? And you're going to laugh. I've got 2 of them myself. I've got endometriosis and I'm on the autism spectrum myself. So I completely understand.
Oh man, my sister-in-law has I can't say it.
And it's
Yeah,
okay.
that's tough, man. That's tough. I'm
It is.
sorry.
So and I have to use the scooter sometime when I go to the grocery store, and I get
Yeah,
stared.
man.
I get stared at, and nobody better say anything to me, or I'll tell them to mind their own bleeping business.
But you know what? I mean, I don't know everything, but I have a little bit of an insight because, you know, we're not super, super close, but I do, you know, have a lot of contact with her. And I know how much pain. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
It's
thank
not a
you.
fun place.
It's not.
Well,
You know what? I'm on 4 medications right now and I'm doing as well as I'm going to get. I mandate my own physical therapy because of COVID, and I'm doing as well as I'm going to get. I've had to change my diet and I've lost closing in on about 100 pounds in the last 3 years because of COVID and changing diets and everything. Yeah, I know. It's
hey,
shocking.
girl.
Well, you look pretty
I
good for
think we're
somebody that
all
lost
right
100
there.
pounds.
Yeah.
We're all right there, girl. All of us. But yeah, it's a lot, you know, and I realized something watching it this time. I mean, I've probably watched this 2 or 3 dozen times this episode, but Dr. Bashir gave up being her doctor before he ever invited her out for dinner, which was the professional thing to do. But
Mhm.
when they started these treatments, he was the one doing them. There wasn't a nurse or a doctor or another doctor or anything in there. So I know they don't, it's hard to keep, you know, but it did seem like a contradiction.
Well, he gave up her doctor so he could be her friend, but when he heard there was a potential paper in the works, he wanted the paper, so he took over being the doctor again. I know. Julian is such a complex thing, and and I even wrote a paper on this. I think he's on the spectrum himself.
That's possible, very possible, especially since remember his parents had to do the
Genetic
yeah,
resequencing,
that
Yeah.
that up in jail for, because they're worried you're gonna make Julian Bashir into Khan Noonien Singh.
Like,
that would explain a lot, actually, looking back. But and I love him, and I can't. But man, if you wrote a paper on it, if you would be willing to share, that would be so cool because
I
I
wrote
just
2
love
on it.
everything about him.
I wrote 2 on it.
Awesome, even better.
Yeah, and I can, that is the plan for next week's little anniversary meeting, actually. So,
Oh, awesome. Well, I will try my best. It's sometimes
yeah.
hard, but I will try my best. Like my son, some days he works 5 hours, some day he works 10 hours. So
And I
I
take it
never,
tonight was the 10-hour shift.
no, but he doesn't get off until 9:30, which for me in Oklahoma is another hour. So he will be getting home in about an hour, 15 minutes or so.
Do you mind if we talk
Depending.
about that? The work ethic of people with disabilities, like Melora had to go to Starfleet Academy and then she went through assignments and she arrived on the station, which really isn't very disability friendly. I know it was built by Kardashians, but it was mentioned that she had to use chairs at the academy as well. You'd think something as advanced as Starfleet would be more disability friendly, wouldn't you?
You know, I've thought about that too, but I just think in Melora's case that she wouldn't accept. Not that the help wasn't necessarily there, because like Dax said, why don't we just beam her around the station? It would work, but she wouldn't allow it. So I think then maybe there was more available that she just wasn't willing to accept, at least then. Maybe by the end of the episode, when she was talking about liking, being dependent, maybe she would be more open to whatever was available to her.
I don't
Because
know.
I mean, if we can build space stations and go from one galaxy to another, it just seems like, or one part of the universe to another, it does seem like they would have more
That's true.
disability friendly. But of course, we don't really see a lot of disability because the medical stuff is so advanced that they really don't show much. Because like Melora's, if she went back to her home planet, her disability would be gone. Her disability was because of her environment.
Yeah.
Like, I can't just go somewhere else and my kidney problems and heart problems and things, those don't go away.
No.
But at least hers, you know, I mean, I'm glad they showed something, but it wasn't what I would consider a true, it's not a physical disability in the sense that she could go home. She didn't want to. She wanted to explore, and that being out of her environment created the disability. So I think I hate to say that it's not a disability, because that's not true, because that's the very definition of a disability. It's something that you cannot do. So, but I think the fact that it was an environmental thing made it a little bit different. Does that make sense?
It does, but it also makes me question, are the Kardashians an ableist race? Because remember that Miles had to put in the accommodations. The Kardashians didn't have them, and it was a Kardashian station. So what did the Kardashians do when they had disabled among their race?
They killed them.
Yeah, that. I can think of a few things they would do to people with a physical disability, but I don't think you'd like them.
Considering the Kardashian ideology, I mean, I just don't see them maybe possibly abandoning them somewhere, but they wouldn't be living among them, and they certainly wouldn't be on the space station. If it was a Bajoran, they would have died immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But was a Kardashian, I still don't see them really going out of their way to do anything.
I mean,
they're just not.
Medicine was advanced, so I don't know.
I think if it was such an easy thing, but they're just not, the way that they consider the value of a life. I just don't see them really going out of their way to do something. Unless, I mean, maybe high-ranking Kardashian officials, maybe if it was one of their family members, because they do hold a high value on family. So
Yeah.
maybe if it was one of them, they would go to lengths, but I don't think for the average person, or certainly not the Bajoran workers.
No, and if
They
you
would give
were an
you
orphan in Kardashian society, you had no status at all.
no status. Worse than the worst, because there was no status. That's why they were abandoned on Bajor to begin with. And at least the Bajorans reached out and helped these helpless kids. Because that's what they were. They didn't choose to be born.
And that's an interesting thing. Like, nobody chooses to be born with a disability. I didn't, nobody does, but it happens. And, people always discuss it. Just like Melora's situation was discussed. And, maybe, I think she was right in a sense. They should have just, included her in the discussion. She was a member of Starfleet. She was capable of being part of the discussion. She should have been included.
Well, but that part of the discussion was Commander Sisko getting a briefing from his senior staff. I don't see a problem with that.
That's true as well.
She was an ensign. She was new to the station. They had spent some time with her, and he needed a briefing because he had spent no time with her up until that point. That seems pretty protocol to me.
That's true.
And that's exactly what Commander Sisko said at the time. I was getting a briefing from my senior staff. We discuss personnel all the time. And that is true as well. I mean, we see that, in running any business, much less a space station. I've been a manager before, and I talked to senior staff about new people without them being present there to
That's
get my information. I mean, obviously, we're not talking gossip here. We're talking, this is what she requested, and this is what, I feel like that was a totally good thing.
And she got
mean, it'd
very
be-
defensive, didn't she? She got very defensive, and it's like she thought Cisco was working against her when he just wanted to understand the situation. Right?
Well, yeah, I guess I see her, she's a little cranky.
Oh,
Like, oh, we just must they talk about me behind my back and just trying to please me or placate me. I don't need your pity. I can do good by myself.
oh, we lost Theresa. She fell out of the convo. I'll have to go find her. Oh, there she is. We lost you.
I lost
Yeah.
you. I did something stupid. I don't know what I did.
Oh, well, we got you back. But I think it was, she was awfully defensive when Cisco simply wanted to understand, and she didn't think anybody was going to work with her. And I
think that's the problem. I think this is the big problem. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just get excited to talk.
It's all right. Like, people with disabilities, they get scared of asking for help or accepting help because they think it makes them look weak.
Well, I think it goes a little bit deeper than that,
But asking
because
for help is not a weakness. It's a strength because it shows you value yourself enough to get better and become better. And sometimes becoming better involves accepting help.
but sometimes that's hard to accept. And sometimes when you reach out and they don't understand how hard it is to reach out. But then when you get ignored or turned down, especially several times in a row, it gets
Mhm.
harder and harder to ask for help. So when you experience it, especially over and over, then it's just harder and harder.
It is. And then you feel like nobody cares and you're left to suffer alone. That's actually in the papers. I should email them to you.
I mean, it is. I mean, that's just the way it really is. My cousin I mentioned that had autism, she has struggled her whole life to be as independent as possible. And there's just a lot of stuff going on. So a few years ago, she went off her meds because she got pregnant with her son, which I don't know how difficult that really is. I know obviously she's on the meds for a reason. But I know she struggled a lot during that time. And then she got into, her husband became abusive and she ended up leaving him. So right now, and this has only been like just before Christmas. So I mean, it's not really been a long time. But she is still in a place of, she's really struggling. I mean, she's back on her meds. Obviously, that was a few years ago, but she's just in a place of really struggling right now. And I try to just be as cheerful and just as, hey, I'm here if you want to talk. If you don't feel like talking, that's good too. But what, yeah. But it's hard because I don't understand. I mean, I feel like I'm being as as empathetic as I can, but I don't understand. I really don't. I don't understand the struggle that she's gone through her whole life. I know it's been a struggle, but like I don't really understand it. And I want to be there. I mean, I am. If she called me right now, I'd drop this and I'd answer the phone. But I don't really comprehend.
The
I
fact that
can't.
you
I've
want
never
to.
been there.
The fact that you want to be there is a lot more than most people would do. So that's a step.
Well, I mean, she's my cousin. I love her, you know.
That's exactly, because a lot of people forget to care because it's hard to care. So they don't care. They choose not to. And you choose to care, even though it's hard.
Well, I mean, like I said, she's my cousin, you know. She to me is always gonna be that little redhead kid, you know, that she was when she was a little girl. Because she's quite a bit younger than I am. But you know, she's family. You don't just walk away from family.
No.
It doesn't matter what she's going through, you know. I told my ex-husband, because he and I both have cousins that are drug addicts.
Hmm.
And he's like, you know, if they show up at the door, I said, if they show up at the door, I'm gonna have them come in, give them something to drink, see what's going on. Either one of them, his or mine. He didn't like that. But you don't just turn family away. You just don't. Even the in-laws. At least that's how my grandma was like that. And she was like that with non-family. Everybody in that whole town knew they could go. They all called her grandma. All of them. But they knew if they needed a hot meal, if they needed a bed, if they needed whatever, they could go to grandma's house. They would not be turned away. She did not turn away anybody, even the people who stole from her, and she did not turn people. She never in her life turned anyone away. Family, stranger, complete stranger that she met going and picking up pizza or at the grocery store. She didn't care. She did not turn people away. If she had something you needed, it was yours. That's just the way she was. My face looks so weird, but I can't turn the light on in here right now.
No, your face looks fine. Don't worry about it.
How red and weird, but
And that's fine. So, you know, we focus too much on our appearances and what other people think of us, and we get defensive because we worry that other people are going to look down on us for how we are. And, you know, I think we all need a little bit of Julian Bashir in our lives, because he is the kind of person who will call us on our crap, just like he called Melora on her crap. She's like, oh, was that an attack?
oh yeah,
And he pointed
I
out,
love that
oh,
part.
you do a
I
lot of
do.
attacking.
I love that part because but he has, man, he's definitely the kind of friend you want to have.
Yes.
I mean, look at him and Miles, man. You know, but he's definitely. I just love him.
Yeah. Even though, as a side thing, I wonder how Heather here somehow thought of Dr. Bashir as a motherly figure. Because
The Wire.
if anything, if I had a daughter and he was coming, I'd probably pull out like an old-timey Ben Cisco baseball bat.
Anthony, I think of Dr. Bashir as a mother because of The Wire.
Well, I mean,
I guess that's a topic for another screening, I think.
We've already watched The Wire. Where have you been at? No, he's very maternal when it comes to helping people with their problems and helping them ways to find their problems. to find ways to solve their problems. And he was very maternal in that sense. And
Yeah,
Well,
I just don't see it.
I think the use of the word maternal is because we as a society tend to think of the mother as the caring one and forget that fathers are many fathers are just as equally caring and loving and doting and stuff. And I think we forget that.
Hey, I know some guys that are fathers.
that's true. Some are very good fathers.
I mean, it's the difference between a good, I mean, look at Commander Captain Cisco.
Yes.
He's a very good father.
Hail to the
He-
Cisco.
He's favorite. But you know, he's a very, but then you look at Worf, and Worf is, I love him, but Worf is not a good father.
Oh, Worf is a terrible father. Let's be real.
Exactly. So, you know, I'm glad we have Cisco, because in all of our other captains, we don't have a sense of family with any of them.
Yeah, I don't think you count the relationship between Captain Archer and Porthos as a family.
No.
Well,
But we have
unfortunately,
Miles.
I haven't seen very much of that, so I don't really
Oh.
have that.
We also have Miles O'Brien as a very good father.
I think he's a good father. I think Cisco's got him beat out a little bit, but I think he is a good father.
Because Cisco's doing it alone.
Well, I mean, he's the Cisco, so
He's the Cisco. Nobody can
exactly.
be Cisco.
Nobody can beat the Cisco. But I mean, Miles is definitely very involved. You see clips of him. He's reading to Molly. He's playing with Molly. You know, I think, you know, and then, you know, when the baby comes along, I think he's a good father.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously it's not, you know, the Miles show, so we're not seeing a whole lot of that, but
right. Even though if I
what we
may,
see,
my craziest Miles O'Brien moment was we had baby Yoshi,
mhm.
and Yoshi just wouldn't stop crying
Oh, I know.
and crying and crying until this thing I always find hilarious when Miles placed Yoshi on top of the reactor core for the Defiant.
I
Then
liked
Yes,
when
we
the
Worf
baby
took
starts
it.
sleeping peacefully. And Captain Cisco, get him off of there.
But he needs a nap. He just went to sleep. Yeah, I know that feeling too. I just loved how Yoshi was with Worf, though. I mean, but I think Worf had a lot of regrets because he didn't even know Alexander existed when Alex was that age. So
Yeah,
he couldn't participate because he didn't even know he was a thing.
yeah. Okay, I'm
So
thinking 2 episodes. One with another time travel thingy where Worf met his son from the future.
There's a lot of Deep Space Nine episodes we have yet to cover. And if anybody has requests of ones we can watch, please message them to me. Do not request them in here. I will forget. My memory's terrible being a neurodivergent. So please write them down.
well, hey, I love them all. I have skipped over a few in the rewatches just for various reasons. Some
Yeah.
of them because they make me cry, like The Visitor.
Oh,
Somebody was talking about that just recently, and I actually skipped it in the last 2 or 3 rewatches. My heart couldn't take it
Mm,
at that moment, and I'm sure I'll rewatch it again, but that one's a little tough. It just brings out a lot of stuff, you know.
yeah.
But
hmm.
I don't care because I mean, I love Deep Space Nine. I think it was the most realistic thing that we had. I love the spaceships. I love the boldly going. I love all of that. But I think seeing more day to day how things are run behind the scenes, more of the relationships. I think that just for me, that really just brought me in a whole lot more.
Yeah. Welcome, Damon. Are you contacting us from Ireland?
Ireland.
Damon? Damon? I can't hear you.
Audio, Damon.
Maybe he can't figure it out because I had a hard time.
Oh boy.
Yes,
There
he's
you go.
a member of the group. Yeah, so we wait for him to get his sound.
But I wonder if he can hear us.
Damon, can you hear us? It's okay. He's a newer member. So Damon. Oh, it's 2:56 a.m. there.
Wow.
Woken up. He wanted to pop in and say hello.
Hello.
Hello, Damon. He wanted to say hello. He's one of our newer members and we're happy to see him.
Yeah, but what a time difference, man.
I know it's so hard to get members from the UK over here because it's so late.
They're 5 time zones away from me.
Yeah, I
Because I actually
know.
know somebody that lives out in England. So for my organization, right? I know my organization is worldwide and he's 5 time zones ahead of me. For me, it's almost 2200, so it's 3 in the morning over there. So I'm amazed he's up.
I'll just ask him while we keep talking. So what do you think about the whole interaction between Julian and Melora anyway? Like, I remember them flying and letting him into the quarters and then him saying, thank you for letting me in. Like, it's so hard for people with disabilities to let typical people into the environment, the circle, and let them see.
I don't know. I thought that was him being sarcastic for a moment. Hey, oh, thanks for letting me in.
No,
Based
I
on the
think he
tone of
was very
voice.
mystified. He was trying to understand why Melora was being defensive, but he truly wanted to understand and be on her level and be in her heart. And
Yeah.
what did you think about that? Hi, Theresa.
Sorry, my son called. He's on his way home from work. So he just wanted to see if I needed anything.
Okay.
I was asking, like, you know, when Julian and Melora were doing the flying in her quarters, and he's like, thank you for letting me in. It's like, it's so, it's such an, it's, I guess it's an, people should consider it an honor because not every, I guess the word divergent person allows typicals to see into their world. And it's
Yeah, and you obviously the obvious. He meant that in more ways than one. Thanks for letting me in.
Yes, he definitely did. Definitely.
Letting into your heart, letting into your world. It's so hard for the divergent of any kind of divergent to let typicals into their heart, into their world, into their space. It's so hard for everybody to enter each other's spaces and actually feel comfortable. So what do you think about that?
Absolutely. But like Anthony said, it's definitely in more ways than one. It wasn't just, into her room or even into the flying thing. I think there was a lot of different levels to that. And I really feel like Dr. Bashir has a special thing about him, and you saying that is possibly on the spectrum, that really gives it even another layer there. But just look at the way that he pours his heart into things. The
Detail
quickening.
oriented. That's what I call it. It's a detail oriented personality. And I say Julian is on the spectrum because he acts very much like I do. And if you're on the spectrum or you have a disability, like a neuro disability, and you see those qualities in others, I don't know, it's a bad thing to say that you kind of wonder if others do too a little bit.
Well, I think there's a special connection because we're Messianic Jewish, and we went to a new synagogue. We had moved, and just the other one was too far away. And there's a young lady that I say young lady, she's in her 50s. So not exactly super young. But she is on the spectrum. She walked up to my son and she said, "You're autistic, aren't you?" And then immediately this look came over his face and she goes, No, it's okay. I mean, I am too. But I think there's a special connection there. But I also feel like, because I've actually, we actually know a lot of people with autism at very different levels. There's a teenage boys, both very severely autistic. I mean, they're at the stage of not able to do or speak or anything for themselves. And I watched them, and it makes my heart full and breaks it at the same time, because this mom, the husband works to support them. The mom is stay at home and takes care of the boys herself. And they're her babies, but she's never going to see them hit the accomplishments that I see my children hit. And that breaks my heart. But she loves them so much. And that's such a place to be. Sorry, I'm gonna cry just thinking about it.
If you apologize for crying, I'm gonna get upset, because we do all sorts of crying here, and that's absolutely okay.
Oh, wow.
But I just think about them, and they're teenagers, and she's this petite woman, and she has to lift them in and out of the car and wheelchairs and stuff, and whew. But I just, I'm very blessed because I have two very healthy children, and I never had to do any of that. And I just can't imagine. She never ever complains, ever. But there's got to be hard days. I mean, it's got to be hard, because they're like supersized toddlers. And toddlers aren't easy.
Wow.
And people like that, people say things to me about how, oh, you're so strong and stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm nothing compared to people like her. I mean, she's like superwoman. And it's not just one, she's got two of them. That's just that man, that blows me away. And it makes me smile because she loves them and everything. And but it also makes me cry because, man, I know it's hard and she doesn't really have, I mean, her husband supports her as much as he can, but he's working his butt off, you know, just to take care of them. And it's a lot. I know it's a lot. It was a lot with mine, and mine were like, you know, not nearly as much of a handful. Anyway,
That woman is nothing less than a hero, and that's an amazing. kudos to her.
she should have sainthood. I mean, I
She
swear.
will. She will.
Yeah, someday.
Anybody
But,
who takes care of people with disabilities, no matter their level of disability, has a level of sainthood, and anybody who commits themselves to it. Because it's not an easy thing. Like, yeah, there's so much sacrifice involved. Sacrifice of self, sacrifice of time, sacrifice of money, sacrifice of resources.
well, when I graduated high school, before I went to college, I took a year off to help take care of my Uncle Bill's mom. Because it's a lot to take care of a parent that's got failing health, and, you know, he still had to work because, you know, he had kids of his own, and, you know, the whole thing. And my Aunt Barbara had to work, you know, these days it's hard to get by, you know. And that was 25 years ago. But I took care of her for a year, and I think that year I always considered myself a nice person. I always considered myself, you know, to be a good person in general. But that was hard because I didn't like her. She was very mean to my cousins when they were little, and then taking care of her when she got to the point where she couldn't leave the bed and she was bedridden. It was really hard because I knew what she put my cousins through. But I told myself every single day, I'm doing this for Aunt Barbara and Uncle Bill. And I had to tell myself that because she still, bedridden and everything, was not a nice person. I mean, she just wasn't. But it opened my eyes a lot, I think, and it gave me a different perspective, because I wasn't about to complain about how mean she was and all the mean things that she said and everything when Aunt Barbara and Uncle Bill would get home from work. But I told myself it's for them, you know, because I really just couldn't do it just for her. I feel like I've matured over the last 25 years, so I feel like, you know, I'm a little bit better than that now. But at 19, 20 years old, I was like, you know, this woman, man, she's so mean. I don't understand why people are so mean. She's totally dependent on other people, but she's still mean. You know, why?
I think it's about not knowing how to handle pain correctly. And I say this because I served as a caregiver for my dad when he was dying of cancer, and he had his alcohol and he had Percocets and he mixed and he yelled and
No.
he had problems with oxygen and potassium and walking and everything else. And I served as his legs, his chauffeur with the wheelchair and everything else. And he was angry and abusive and a lot of things, but I'm sure it was because he was overwhelmed with the situation. He realized he was going to die.
Oh yeah.
He didn't do anything about it, and he didn't know how to deal with his pain other than be angry.
Well, in her case, and I think one of the things midway through that year, we found out that her other son was coming in and swapping her pain meds out for generic Tylenol. We ended up having to lock him up in a safe and everything. It was crazy. So she probably was in a lot of physical pain, and that's hard. I mean, I've had days where I have snapped at my son, and poor kid didn't do anything, you know. So we've had plenty of those. I'm sorry, I'm hurting. You know, we've had those conversations.
Yeah.
It's no fun. And then it
And
makes me feel more guilty, but you know.
yeah. And the I'm hurting conversation, like I'm struggling, is probably the way Melora felt when she conversed with people, because she was like, I'm hurting and struggling, but I don't want people to see that. So I'm going to be angry. But it came across as rude and just a lot of things she didn't intend.
Exactly. I'd rather you think me an angry, horrible person than you think me weak and helpless.
And Julian pretty much was the first and probably only person really to see through that. It's like, I'm sure the others saw it eventually, but Julian was the one that embraced her authentic self the most.
I feel like from the conversations with her and Dax in the shuttlecraft, I feel like they kind of, you know, working together like they were. I feel like that Dax kind of had some understanding there, because Dax is the one that convinced her, hey, you don't want to do this. Talk to Julian, you know, don't, you know, we have to do what you want to do. And luckily Julian wasn't so into my paper that he cared more about her than he did about the fame and recognition.
Yeah. Well,
it came in time, I think, but you know, Dax has always been Julian's sounding board. She's been kind of like, oh, you're getting a little too eager about this and this and this. You need to slow down and consider the person before you.
She's already been through that how many times before?
Right. In 300 years, yeah, she's got a little bit of experience. I just always have to smile because when they got to the station in episode 1, it was already flirting, you know.
Yes. And Dax was like, oh, I can handle this boy.
But
like,
she was eating it up. She was eating it up. That look on her face when Cisco met them at the airlock, that little coy smile of hers, she was eating it up. She was eating it up, and Cisco knew it. She was eating it up.
Yeah. But it's like, I hope she was okay in the long run after she left, but
I think
it's like, I know she wanted to be like away from the chair, but it was a part of her and she needed to come to that realization on her own.
I mean, it can be difficult. I was in a wheelchair for 6 months, and then I used a walker for another 6 months before I could finally walk with a cane.
Yeah,
And people look at you funny
they
in a
do.
wheelchair or walker. If you're
Mm,
not old and crippled with gray hair, then they really, really look at you funny.
They do.
So it's like you're an inconvenient. Why are you taking up so much space? You look young. Why can't you just get up? Both of your legs are there. What's wrong with you? Kind of stuff, you know? So I get that. I have come to terms with the fact that I will probably never not walk with a cane. But it becomes a something that you have to come to terms with. And I think she did in that episode come to the realization, this is something that I need. This wheelchair, these braces, they're just something that I need. And she wanted to follow her dreams. She wanted to get out in the stars. That was just the price to pay. So I think she kind of realized that. And I feel like she kind of paved the way to maybe reach out her hand first to start a friendship on her next assignment. And
That's true.
I like to think that on her next assignment, she got there and gave a great big smile and, hey, I'm Melora, and jumped right in.
I hope so. Like, challenges are never anything we want, but I think we need them. Some of us are blessed with challenges so we can teach others patience. I think patience and compassion and love. And some of us are blessed without, so we can learn patience and compassion and love.
but I will admit, even me, Heather, there are some times where my patience may run out.
Yes, but I don't think for very long, because I interpret you as a very patient, loving, caring, cuddly teddy bear. Sorry, but
He's trying to kidnap me, Theresa. Call for help.
oh, if I could, I certainly would. You and your Starfleet uniforms.
Hey, now I have some pretty cool Star Trek merch. Most of
Oh,
mine was stolen a few years ago, but I've been rebuilding my collection, so that communicator he has, I have what very similar to that. But my Star Trek costume, I made it myself. It was from the original series. I made it a little longer than regulation because I'm a little self-conscious, especially as a teenager.
Right.
So I wore really dark tights and I made it 3 inches longer. But it kind of disappeared in all the moves and stuff.
oh, that's
And
amazing.
I bought my son Captain Kirk shirt that was not as advertised. He still wears it, but it is not the right thing.
That's
So
amazing.
someday I'm gonna get him I am gonna get him a custom made Captain Kirk. When he meets new people, there's a 50-50 shot he'll give you his real name. Half the time he says, well, you can just call me Captain Kirk. He is
You know what? That's
I was
okay.
hoping that he would get home before this ended because he could turn the lights on for me. I can't get to them. And maybe you could meet him because he is a character, and Captain Kirk is his favorite.
Well, there's
I
always
got him. Oh, sorry.
Huh?
there's always the next meeting.
That's true. They tend to like him to close, so he's usually gone at night.
Oh, okay.
But for Hanukkah, I got him last year. I got him a shirt that said "Top 10 Reasons Why Captain Kirk is the Best," and he totally wore it to my friend's wedding this past spring. And she is a total science fiction geek. I mean, she goes to the conventions in Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, wherever she can go. Her and her niece.
Okay.
Her
All
wedding,
right.
her marching down the aisle for her wedding was the Darth Vader entrance music.
I love that.
Yeah.
It was, none of us knew. None of us knew. She knew, the sound guy knew, and her groom knew, but none of us knew. So
Oh my
when
God.
that started, oh my God, that was
That
awesome.
reminds me, sorry, you finish, Theresa, please.
Oh no, I was done.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember about a SFI conference where some people were doing the Macarena to the Imperial March.
I love
Oh my gosh.
And
That
you
must be,
know,
I kid you not.
when I was in high school. No, I wasn't in high school. I wasn't that old yet.
Oh, wow.
I was a teenager. How about that? When Voyager was still on air.
Right, right.
So a couple in the club that I was in, I was the only young person. So I had a lot of adopted parents because they were very protective of me. I was the only child. But they went to the Las Vegas thing to get married so they could do the whole Cleon wedding thing. And of course, as young as I was, my parents were not going to send me to Las Vegas. I'm sure that they would have taken really good care of me, but you know, my parents didn't really know them. You know, we were all a bunch of geeks to them. But I thought that was so cool that they were having a real, like, full-blown Star Trek wedding.
that's amazing.
I know.
You know what? At the 50th anniversary in Star Trek Las Vegas, a couple actually did get married right across from the triple station where I was working.
Oh wow.
So I got to see it
just think
and I
that was
snapped
cool.
a few pictures.
We had a party, like a Christmas party, while I was still in the club, and so we brought Star Trek inspired foods. It was amazing. It just was amazing. We had blood wine. I think it was like some kind of punch, but
I'll pass on the goth. Thank you.
Oh, I've eaten live worms. Is
they
that
made that out
similar?
of some kind of noodle, some kind of pasta.
Oh, that's
I don't know. I'm a bit squeamish there. Even if I know it's pasta, I just,
Oh, I'd eat it.
All right, anybody
I'm
want to
not
give this
nasty.
woman some goth for Thanksgiving? She'll take it off our hands.
We don't want Anthony to get sick. So since we're talking about the past, let's go into plot B a little bit and let's keep Anthony from getting sick.
No, I'll live.
Let's talk about plot B for a minute and Quark's past. Bad Quark. Bad.
Oh yeah, the side story that they tied into the main story.
Yes.
Quark
I'm
sold
like,
somebody out
okay,
and
what did he
he
do
got
now?
slated to die.
Well, I think at some of those points you just had to laugh. I mean,
I
Quark,
hate to laugh at him, but I laugh at him.
I love Quark. I do, because he's just what we need sometimes. The comic relief that, you know, he's just what we need. But he has his moments too. I mean, even then, you know, he grabbed the phaser and held it, you know, at the very end. But Quark had his moments throughout the entire series. The siege, when Nog lost his leg.
Yeah.
As much of a coward and as selfish and everything that Quark could be, he put himself between that doorway and his nephew. And moments like that, you know, you have to have an understanding that you just can't judge somebody,
I,
because you never know. Everybody has their moments where they shine, and Quark had his. I mean, he saved himself and Odo when he climbed that mountain.
I mean,
I mean, and he didn't want to.
here's the thing though. I almost wonder how long Cork and Rom have been together raising Nog. Like, you know, like Rom got swindled by his wife and his wife left Rom to raise Nog on his own. And so Cork probably stepped in, hey, I'll help you, brother, raise your son, but you got to work for me, right? So Cork has probably been a second father to Nog. And of course, Cork's going to protect Nog because Nog is like his surrogate son. I don't know if Cork will ever have any children of his own. And so of course he's going to protect the one he sees as a child, as his child,
Well,
right?
I don't remember the name of the episode where we saw the Skrilla.
The
They
what
came
now?
through the
Grilka.
the
I don't
Skrilla.
know if they had any other children. That would be so interesting to see their child.
But, you know, when the fight broke out on the promenade where they were going after Nog, Quark ran out of the bar. Quark is the one that went and stopped the fight. Not even Rom. I mean, it was Quark. He was, man, that fight broke out. Nog let out his squeal, and Uncle Quark was right there. You know, so I think he certainly had a capacity. I can't remember her name. The Kardashian that showed up at the station with her students.
Natima Lang.
Yes. I mean, it really showed us a side of Quark that he wasn't just, he really had real feelings for her. And I think we just got to see little moments where Quark was something else. I mean, yeah, his typical everyday self. He was greedy, he was selfish, he was, how much latinum can I get? But you know, he certainly had his moments that were very bad and his moments that were very good. So
Oh, yes. And one of his very bad moments was selling people out without thinking that they would ever come back to haunt him.
right. Well, at that moment, he just didn't want to go be slave labor for the Romulans. I mean, there's a lot of self-interest there. I get that. But it was so funny to see the look on his face, you know, and he's sitting there, gifts and food and everything. But
Like, please don't kill me, dude.
please don't kill me. Exactly. Like, I'll do literally anything. I mean, he was willing to give up. He didn't even try to keep some of it out. The asking price, 199 bars of gold pressed platinum, he was willing to give the whole thing to him. He was, yeah, I don't want to die.
And you know the funny
Hey, Alex.
Hey.
I'm on a Star Trek Zoom call. We're talking about the Deep Space Nine episode, Melora.
Nice.
Do you remember that one? It's the one where she had to be in a wheelchair.
Oh, yes, yes.
Low grab. Can you do something about the light? Cause ow.
Let there be
Okay.
light.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, you know.
Oh, hello,
I'm
pretty
in the light now.
lady.
I'm in the light now. At least it's not that red weird look. That.
Oh, you're pretty. My goodness.
Aw. Well, thank you for saying so. I think you're very pretty. I like your smile.
Oh, thank you. A lot of people comment on that. And I'm like, really? That's interesting.
I am surrounded by medical supplies because of all of my stuff. But, you know.
Yeah, that's okay.
And it is what it is. I've come to terms with that. I'm okay
Yeah,
with
you
that.
wouldn't believe the amount of medical stuff we had in the house when my dad was sick. It was insane.
Yeah, I understand. Right now, most of mine is piled up in the living room because my son has not brought it to my room yet. But
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
But
crazy stuff.
yeah, it wasn't even Cork that saved the day, even though he made the mess with his stupidity. It was Melora who saved the day.
Yeah.
I know, right?
A woman's always got to clean up after the men, right?
Well, see, I haven't had a whole lot of experience with that because in my family, the men take care of the women. I mean,
know.
that's the way I grew up. My ex is not like that.
I know,
But,
Anthony. I was just kidding. It was just in this case.
Mhm.
Oh, don't be so moody.
it's just some men, Anthony, not all. We know that.
We know
We
you're
say
great, Anthony.
generalizations.
You're great,
It's just,
Anthony.
yeah, it's just a generalization, and we're going to work on not doing that anymore. Or at least I am.
No, I didn't take it literally.
No, but it's like when she was shot, she got her the dude turned to Dax and was like focused on Dax and was like, oh, never mind the cripple, she's dead. So Melora was able to literally crawl over and reset the gravity and then fly.
Yeah, that must have been painful. That just had to not be easy.
Yeah, but she did it. She's quite
She
used
did it.
to in difficult
She
situations.
did it. She saved the day.
Yep. Interesting. We never see this person since. I don't even think they've even got this woman in one of the Star Trek novels.
We can look in the
No.
Apocrypha. Let me look.
I don't know. The last conference I went to was in Oklahoma City many years ago. I don't remember what year it was. But I have an interesting quick story about that.
Sure, do tell.
George Takei was there,
Oh,
and
George.
after everything was over, our ride hadn't gotten there. I went with a friend's mom, dropped us both off. We were both teenagers, and she dropped us both off, and she hadn't come back to pick us up. Everybody was gone, and he came down the elevator, walked down the hall, and saw us, and recognized us, and we were holding autographed pictures of him, and sat down on the bench we were sitting on and waited with us until our ride got there. My friend Nate and him had this awesome conversation, and I sat there freaking out like a little fangirl. But they had a really cool conversation. But it was just a really awesome thing for him to do. He didn't have to do that. But he saw two teenage fans just sitting there, and he sat down with us, and he waited until he literally waited until we got in the car before he went back up and did whatever he was going to do.
Well, that's Uncle George for you.
I just think that's awesome. Every time I see somebody attack him or his character on Facebook, I'm like, hold up just a minute. Let me tell you about my experience with him, because I think he's awesome. I think that was a really great thing for him to do, to see, hey, two teenage kids in a big, huge hotel downtown Oklahoma. He stayed with us. And I just kind of get the feeling like, it was kind of a almost parental thing. These kids are here by themselves, and I'm gonna sit with them. And I think it means more to me today than it did then, because now I see it through the eyes of a parent too. And it's like, he looked out for us. He had our backs. And that was really cool.
It was really cool. And
Yeah. He is a
But that
good
was
guy.
last convention.
I met him once. It was like last year, actually.
Oh, wow.
And granted, I didn't have much time to speak with George because I basically at the convention, He was running a little late. There are like 20 people behind me.
Right.
Right, I know you already have Will Shatner to my right autographing stuff. But I already met him. I think that's who I was there for. But yeah, George was a pleasant guy to talk to.
I think he really is a good guy. I just, people say horrible things about anybody that's different.
That's true.
And I mean, isn't that what this group is all about?
Yeah.
You know, people want to focus on what's different instead of what's the same.
And you know, the negative about people saying bad things about different people is that the different people start saying bad things about themselves, and they get defensive and they don't want friendship because they don't know who they can trust. And they realize that, and they actually know they don't come to realize that their worth, and they question their worth, and then they wish they were somebody else. They wish they were normal. And
normal is a setting on the washing machine.
well, that's true, but I mean, because of gossip, because of hatred, because of indifference, people just wish they were normal. And that's not the way we should be. We should realize that without our disabilities, without our differences, we wouldn't be who we were. We shouldn't want to cure ourselves because we were made the way we were, and we were either made with a disability or we weren't. If we were made with this disability, we were made to teach others patience, to teach others love and compassion and all the positive emotions that people need. And if we weren't born with a disability, we were born to learn love, compassion, and patience, and all the other emotions that people need.
Well, our differences don't just make us stronger. I mean, look at the diverse groups in Star Trek. The fact that they come together, no one person always comes up with the way out, the what needs to be done, the solution to whatever the problem is. It is them working together as a group. Sometimes an experience from this person and an experience from this person, they bring those together, and hey, what if we do this, and it saves the day in the end. And I think that that's important for us to be okay with the differences. I grew up in a very small town, and people used to say things like, I don't see color, I just see a person. And as I've matured and as I've grown up, I disagree with that. Yeah. Because them being whatever race they are, that brings their difference to the table. And I feel like they should celebrate that difference, whatever it is. And I just don't.
Yeah.
It's hard to put into words, but
yeah, I've learned we shouldn't say that either, because it diminishes the value they have in themselves and their race. So yeah. And it's we need to value each other for who we are and how we were made.
I think so. I really do. And again, different cultures, different backgrounds, they bring something new to the table that we don't necessarily think of. And I feel like at this point in my life, I have friends, of, I don't know if it's every religion, but I have friends of all different religions and backgrounds and cultures. And that's one of the things I loved about our synagogue was when you walked in the doors on Friday night, there would be Native Americans in their full regalia. There would be Africans in their tribal stuff. I mean, it was the most welcoming place that I've ever been in my life. And that's why that's why I love it so much, because it is just such a welcoming place. And they're really, I mean, when they do, with us being Messianic Jewish, we do what we call Davidic dancing. And if you ever get a chance to Google it, YouTube it, awesome stuff. But in the dancing, you had people from India in their saris, you had the Native American regalia, you had African stuff, you had people wearing jeans and a t-shirt. It was just, you know, but I loved it. I loved every minute of it, because that's what we're supposed to be. That is what we're supposed to be. I mean, the girl that always sat with me and my sons was this little short African American woman. And I'm about as pasty white as you get. You know, but that's, I mean, our skin color isn't, you know, why we're friends. But I respect everything about her culture, and she respects mine. And I think that's awesome. And I think that's what we should strive for as humans, to
Yes.
be able to do that.
Yeah.
Whether it's a disability, skin color difference, political difference, whatever the case may be. Maybe you like Star Wars and don't like Star Trek. That's okay. I'm cool with that. You don't have to like it. I do.
Humanity should not be just about compatibility. It should be about compassion.
I love that. I mean, when I was in high school, we were homeschooled, and there was this young man. He ended up being kind of stalkerish, but
Mm.
he saw that I was reading a Star Trek novel. We went to the same homeschool events, and he
Mhm.
saw me reading a homeschool novel, Star Trek novel, and he came and sat beside me, and we started talking about it. Come to find out, his dad banned him from watching Star Trek because there were Black people in it.
Oh, Lord.
I mean, high school was a long time ago for me. I did not know until my encounters with him that the KKK is still alive in Oklahoma. Like, there are groups, because his dad was in one of them. And kind of freaked me out when I learned that on so many levels. But his dad banned him from watching it, so I tolerated him and talked to him. He was a little freaky, but we were in a public place, so I thought I was pretty safe talking to him. But one day he asked me why I was friends with a certain person, and said, "Don't you know you're better than her?"
Mm.
Oh my.
I mean, but that's what he was taught his whole life. I mean,
Uh-huh.
and I said, what do you mean? And so it did start a nice conversation, and I'd like to think that at this point in his life, because he's about my age, that, you know, he doesn't hold those same beliefs, but that's what he was taught from birth. So, you know, we had a discussion in my family at home that night about that, and I was told, you know, well, you have to understand, that's all he knows. That's all he knows. So I kind of went out of my way after that to share my Star Trek novels and stuff, because he couldn't watch it at home. Because it does teach, you know, it's the human race. You know, you don't see people going, "Oh, you've got black skin, he's got white skin" on the show. I mean, it's it's, oh, y'all are humans and stuff. But that was kind of a wake-up call for me anyway, especially as a teenager. I lived, I guess, a pretty sheltered life because I got to be in high school and did not know that there was that kind of racism in the world. And I was in high school. So I guess, you know, my childhood was pretty protected from that kind of stuff. But it still exists. I mean, it really does. So that's,
It's a terrible thing, but all we can do is educate ourselves and be aligned with the cause of eliminating racism and listen to people and support them when they say they've experienced it, and love everyone and try to teach everyone peaceful ways of handling it. Like the violence and everything else, the violent ways of dealing with it, that's not the way it should be.
but I think, you know, racism, like any other type of discrimination, it's something that we have to tackle on a per instance issue, but we really need to speak up when we see something, because I think it's too easy to look the other way. If we see something, I mean, when I was in college, my best friend through college was a girl that was Black. She was deaf. She was very athletic, but she was very isolated. Because at college, we were at a university with a deaf education program. So she did have friends. She had lots of us that would talk with her that knew sign language. But we were assigned a project. We weren't the only, there was, I think, 2 other girls in our group. And our project was to go to a public place and see if people treated us differently if we only spoke in sign language. No voices allowed, period. So it was one of our sign language classes. And 2 of the girls in our group were deaf. So it was probably easier for them than us, especially me, because I like to talk. I do too much talking sometimes, but I like to talk.
You do not, hush. You do not.
But we could, part of our grade was never turning our voices on. We had to rely 100% on sign language. So we decided to go to the mall. Yeah, I think we deserved credit just for going to the mall, because we had 2 Black girls in our group, 2 deaf girls in our group. They watched us like hawks. I mean, like we were going to steal everything that we could, like. And I'm not sure how much of that was because of their race or how much it was because they didn't hear us speak a word. We had to write down stuff. We had to sign to each other. One of the girls out of the 4 could lip read. But our professor got his point across, because he wanted us to see how people who could not hear were treated by everyone else. And I know that if I had opened my mouth and said a word, the way they treated me would have been differently. I don't know how it would have been for the other girls in the group, but that really opened my eyes, because I was, as far as they knew, I was deaf. And it gave me a sense of what it was like. And we were only there for like an hour or two, maybe. I don't remember. It was a long time ago, but that was eye-opening, because they really, bunch of teenage girls sitting around at a table at the mall using sign language, then oh, they got to be up to something bad. They can't be up to anything good.
Yeah, it's very troubling. Like when it comes to diversity, society is pretty much a failure in terms of including and supporting individuals with any type of disability. It's pretty much a failure rate right now. It shouldn't be, but it is. Even as late as the 90s, even now, there are still group homes. And some group homes are okay, but others are not. And people with disabilities are not getting the supports that they need or deserve.
Absolutely.
Governments are not budgeting enough money for people with disabilities. And even in Star Trek, we're not seeing enough people with disabilities. I mean, it's tragic. It's a tragedy.
I agree. I mean, it's like, I mean, I don't think it's as bad. Well, I know it's not as bad because there was a time when anybody with any kind of disability, they were locked in an attic or a basement or sent off to an institution.
Mhm.
So, I mean, we're not that bad.
Yeah, I don't
But
know. So it's like, do you still think they tend to sweep them under the rug? Where it could be
Yeah,
with a disability,
absolutely.
be it physical or mental disability?
yes,
Because you don't want to
Absolutely.
deal with it?
yes.
Well, people like my cousin that I was talking about, um, she has a lot going on. I mean, she's just, I mean, her list is like really long. And I know that there's a lot of places that just, she only feels safe in a few places in her world. And I think that's sad. I really do think that's sad. It took years for her to find a counselor and therapist and stuff that she could trust. And then her ex went to the same counselor, and she feels really betrayed right now because it's not easy to find some places willing to work with anyone with any kind of thing going on, and she's got lots of things going on. So she did finally, with the encouragement of myself and her parents and others, she did finally talk to her counselor and tell him how uncomfortable she was with the situation, because that's her safe place. That's her spot. And for him to intrude in that is kind of, shouldn't have been allowed, you know. So, but yeah, I see that. I mean, I see that a lot. Um, my friend that I was talking about with the autistic kids, um, it took them 2 years to find a church that they could go to, because people just acted very cold. They did not personally want to get involved with these autistic kids. So they felt very uncomfortable everywhere they went. And I think that says something really bad for a lot of us.
It
That,
does. It does.
because a church should be somewhere where it doesn't matter. You are welcomed in with loving arms. What can I do? How can I help? It breaks my heart in a million ways to think it took them 2 years to find somewhere to feel comfortable taking their kids every week. That just, I mean, they're Christians. They need that fellowship.
Yeah.
And of all the people in the world that I know,
Mhm.
they need that fellowship, and she needs that little bit of a break to have people who come around her and support her emotionally.
Mhm.
And it just makes me so sad that it took so long for her.
And people who claim to be Christians go to churches that are supposed to be run
Oh
by
yeah,
people who believe in Christ. And Christ is
Mhm.
supposed to be about unconditional love.
exactly.
And it's sad,
I
like
just
there are so few safe places in the world for people with any type of disability. And this is not the way the world should be. And it's the same in Star Trek, it seems. It seems there are so few places for people with disabilities where they can feel safe and function. I mean, look what happened. And we'll discuss more of this next week. Look what happened. The Bashirs felt so overwhelmed that they went and augmented their son because he had a disability. They were scared for him. In the future, they were
exactly.
scared for him.
And well, just look at the others when Bashir brought them in to try to help them. I mean, they're locked away in an institution.
Yeah.
Of course, they did manage to escape, so I don't know how
Yeah.
locked away they are. But they were never allowed to participate in
Yeah.
normal life. So yeah,
Like, I
there
mean,
is that too.
just because Khan tried to go after Kirk, they assumed, oh, arguments are going to be just as bad as Khan. We better lock them away like they're dangerous and criminals without giving them a chance to prove themselves, right?
Right. Well, just think that if someone had stepped in for those people the way, I mean, Bashir was lucky. But if
He had
somebody
to
had stepped
lie.
in when they were little, maybe it would have been different.
Like, I'm not saying the arguments had appropriate behavior. They had their inappropriate moments in their behaviors, but they could have been taught, they could have been trained how to be appropriate if somebody was willing to adapt to them and their needs and be advocates for them. And when they came to the station, it's not like anybody else cared about them. Like, pretty much Julian was told to go to them and take care of them because nobody else wanted to take the time. And Julian went, and he was a little overwhelmed, but he got over it quickly because he's like, nobody else is going to be there for them. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm getting passionate.
No. I mean, but that just shows that you care. Because if you didn't,
I've had my own experiences where people promised to adapt and failed to adapt, especially in social situations. I'm not going to bring that up, but
Mhm.
I've had my fair share of people who promised and failed to adapt. So I empathize with the arguments. Like, if more people had compassion on me, perhaps I'd be better off socially and emotionally. And so I empathize with the arguments. And people forget where you
absolutely.
end up alone. And having to create this space was my way of responding to being alone. So that it sucks to be alone because you're forgotten to care about and you're marginalized and ostracized because you're seen as being weird and dangerous and unwelcome. And hence why I made this space so that nobody else would have to feel like crap for being weird.
But I think it's the hurt people who try to make other people smile. If you look, and I'm going to pull in somebody that's not Star Trek here, but Robin Williams. It's hurt
Yeah.
people that try to make other people laugh and take away other people's pain because they know what it feels like to hurt. And they don't
Yeah.
want anybody else to hurt. So when you see somebody being like that, I see that and I wonder how they're hurting, because it's the hurt people who try to help other people,
Yeah.
because we all have our hurts, whether it's a diagnosis thing or whatever. We all have our hurts, we all have our days, we all have the, especially the first year of the COVID stuff. I
Oh,
mean, the amount of depression and anxiety and everything. We all felt that, even people who didn't have any kind of diagnosis whatsoever in their medical charts, they, everybody was having a hard time. And there's still a lot of people having a hard time. Job insecurity, there's just so many things going on. So I just think, like you've said a couple of times, you've used the word compassion.
yes,
We really need to just have compassion for each other.
we do. Like, humanity should be about compassion and not compatibility. We shouldn't focus on how we're compatible. We should just focus on loving each other unconditionally.
Okay.
I know my dad. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Anthony.
No, I'm just gonna sound at you because I know I'm looking at my time here.
Oh, are you getting
11
tired?
o'clock in New York, so.
He's getting tired.
Oh man, you're gonna have to hit the sack. I'm getting hungry too, because I was waiting on my son.
You know what? We're definitely gonna stay on this topic next week, because next week is the anniversary of IDIC includes me, and that's why Star Trek matters, because it was published on February 22, 2021.
Okay.
And I will share that with you, Theresa and Anthony, so you can get a look.
All right. I have another. I'll let you know right now. I think I have a conference on Friday.
Okay.
I'll try to duck in here as soon as I can. So if I'm not there at 8 o'clock sharp.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, that's what we're going to be discussing, and we're going to be watching Dada's Day and go into the mind of a neurodivergent.
Okay.
Like that. I like that.
All right, ladies, let me sign off.
Right.
Good night. Get some
Good
rest.
night.
It's nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Yes, good night. Thank you for coming.
All right, bye.
Oh, well.
Poor thing, go eat.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, my dad sometimes would make a comment about Star Trek being this utopian, unrealistic view of things. And I just like to think that in 400 years, we can do better.
If we're the same in 400 years as we are now, we're screwed.
I know, right? I mean, no evolution in 400 years is like, but I think, I don't know, if we're going to achieve that, but man, I had the best dreams about, waking up on Deep Space Nine. That would be so cool.
That would be cool.
It would be. But all right, well, I know my son is starving too, so I need to
Yes, it was.
see what he wants to do.
Coming.
Yeah, Fridays are just a little bit weird because that's Shabbat for us. When the sun goes down, that's Shabbat.
Yes.
So yeah, that makes it a little bit hard for me, but I will see what I can do.
Yes, well,
The Shabbat service usually isn't over. It wasn't over tonight, but the live connection on their end went down, so I went ahead and switched over.
Okay.
All right. Well, it was great talking to you.
Well, I mean, I might even, I don't know, I'll figure something out. Anyway, it was great talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I might see you for part of next week. I might see you for all of it. I don't know. We'll see.
All right, nice talking to you. Have a good night.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Alex.
Thank you for attending tonight's meeting. Live long and prosper.